Imagine gripping your steering wheel, thinking you score this, fantastic deal on a used car, and you are completely unaware that a previous owner's cheap repair has turned your airbag into a literal grenade.
Oh, yeah. It is a terrifying thought.
Right. Or, imagine sitting in a pristine dealership showroom, you're signing the paperwork on a brand new SUV, and you are totally oblivious to the invisible $5,000 tax you just paid.
And that's not for a bigger engine.
No, exactly. Not for premium leather seats, nothing like that. It's simply for the legal privilege of buying that vehicle. Welcome to Auto News Talk. You might think you know what drives the auto industry. Horsepower, electric vehicle range, maybe some sleek sheet metal, but we are exposing the invisible machinery.
Yeah, the stuff you don't see.
We are tracking the hidden forces that dictate what you pay, who or, what is actually selling to you, the underlying code running your dashboard, and a terrifying blind spot in vehicle repairs that you absolutely need to know about.
Exactly. To really understand the automotive world, you kind of have to picture this massive high-stakes tug of war.
Okay, a tug of war between what?
Well, on one side, you have legacy friction. We are talking about decades-old state laws, entrenched dealership habits, and incredibly fragmented supply chains.
Right. And on the other side?
On the other side, you have brutal, uncompromising efficiency, and that is being driven by new technology and direct-to-consumer models. So we are going to walk through the entire life cycle of the modern car ecosystem to see how this tension actually plays out.
From the very beginning.
Yeah. We will start with the invisible premium slapped on the sticker price. Then we'll step onto the physical showroom floor, examine the software inside the cabin, and finally look at the aftermarket parts that are, supposed to keep you safe.
Let's start right at the price tag. Because, that is the universal pain point for every single buyer out there.
Oh, absolutely.
You look at a $50,000 car, and you assume, naturally, that you're paying for $50,000 worth of engineering and materials. But an analysis from the International Center for Law and Economics puts a hard number on a phenomenon that completely shatters that assumption.
It really does.
They are arguing that state franchise dealer laws are adding a massive hidden premium to new vehicles.
Yeah, and they put a hard number on it, and it is staggering. So these state laws legally force automakers to sell through franchise dealerships. They basically ban them from using direct-to-consumer channels.
Like what you see with Tesla or Volkswagen's upcoming Scout brand.
Exactly. And the analysis points out that these costs are entirely structural. You are not paying for better brakes or a smoother ride, You are paying to sustain the legal architecture of the distribution system itself.
So it's essentially the automotive version of buying concert tickets online.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Right, you see a ticket for $50, but by the time you actually check out, a mandatory convenience fee has practically double the price.
Yeah, and nobody likes that fee.
No one. But how does that convenience fee for a car get so bloated? Walk me through exactly how we get to thousands of dollars in markups just for using a middleman.
Well, the report breaks the structural overhead into three distinct buckets. First, you have inventory carrying costs, which they calculate to be between about $1,045 and $1,105 per vehicle.
Just to carry the inventory.
Yeah, because when a dealer buys cars from the factory, they don't just buy them with cash, they use floor plan loans. So you, the buyer, are paying for the high interest on those loans, the insurance on the lot, and the capital that's just tied up while that metal sits there waiting for a buyer.
Right, because cars are depreciating assets that just bleed money the longer they sit still. What's the second bucket?
The second is demand mismatch friction, and that adds roughly $1,600.
Demand mismatch. Meaning what?
It happens when the factory allocations simply do not match what local buyers actually want. Imagine a factory shipping 50 bright yellow sports cars to a dealer in a market where everyone wants silver family SUVs.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough sell.
Exactly. The dealer has to spend heavily on aggressive marketing, incentives, and logistics just to force that mismatched inventory off the lot.
That makes sense. And the third bucket?
Finally, you have facility and staffing overhead. That adds another $1,200 to $1,900 just to keep the showroom lights on and pay the sales support staff.
Okay, so when you add all that up, what are we actually looking at for the consumer?
The study officially dubs this a middleman tax. They estimate it adds roughly $3,934 to just under $5,000 to a typical $50,000 new vehicle.
That is nearly $5,000.
It's a huge chunk of change.
So if I am a consumer, I really have to ask, am I actually getting $5,000 worth of value out of this mandated middleband? Because I could do a lot with $5,000.
And that is the exact argument fueling the battle between legacy brands and the direct-to-consumer models. The direct models argue they can just strip that tax away and pass the savings to the buyer, or, just keep it as profit. But to be fair to the complexity of the industry, we have to recognize what this analysis leaves out.
What's missing?
It completely ignores the dealer's counter-argument. Dealerships argue that they provide crucial local service infrastructure, localized competition that drives prices down, and consumer protection that a centralized corporate website thousands of miles away simply cannot offer.
That is a fair counterpoint, actually, but it brings up a huge operational question.
Which is?
If the dealership model is burdened with this massive structural overhead, like these huge carrying costs and mismatched frictions, how on earth do the best dealers actually survive? How do they protect their margins without gouging the customer?
It takes a lot of discipline.
Well, we actually have a fascinating operational playbook from Brian Dorsett, who's a former Major League Baseball catcher turned dealership president, and it explains how they fight this battle on the floor.
Yeah, the Dorsett playbook is basically a masterclass in fighting that exact friction. His approach reveals that strict, real-time operational discipline and cross-rooftop flexibility are really the only ways to master the sheer chaos of automotive retail.
I want to dig into that baseball analogy for a second, because a catcher is the only player on the field who sees the whole game in front of them, right?
Exactly.
They are calling pitches in real time, adjusting to the batter. How does that translate to a showroom floor?
It translates into being utterly ruthless about time and inventory. For example, they enforce a 31-day hard line on aging inventory.
31 days. That's it.
That's it. We talked about those floor plan interest rates eating away at profit. After 31 days, the grosses drop sharply. So the moment a car hits that mark, managers are forced to adjust pricing and reconditioning immediately. You cannot fall in love with a piece of inventory. They also aggressively track the average cost per unit, aiming for $20,000 to $23,000, which is a stark contrast to the broader industry average, which is hovering around $24,000 to $25,000 right now because it's heavily skewed by expensive trucks.
Wait, pause. Let's talk about the internal accounting, because there is a very specific mechanism in this playbook that fascinated me.
Oh, the accounting pack.
Yes. They use what's called a two-layer accounting pack. There is a $595 main pack, plus a distinct $400 used car reserve. I'm not an accountant. Walk me through exactly how hiding $400 in a reserve actually changes how a salesperson or a manager operates on the floor.
It is a brilliant psychological and financial tool. So in a lot of dealerships, a sales manager might sell a car at a loss just to move it off the lot.
Just to get rid of it.
Right. And to cover up that loss, they rely on the finance and insurance department, the F&I office, to make up the profit by selling the customer a high-interest loan or an extended warranty.
Ah, so it masks poor inventory management.
Exactly. Dorsett's playbook keeps that $400 used car reserve completely separate from the F&I results. By walling off that money specifically for write-downs, it ensures managers have crystal clear visibility into the real performance of the metal itself. They can no longer use the finance office to hide a bad car deal.
That forces an incredible amount of honesty into the system. And they also restructure how the salespeople are paid, right? The cross-rooftop pay.
Yeah, exactly. Salespeople are paid based on the units sold, regardless of the brand. If a customer wanders from the dealership's Nissan lot over to their Hyundai lot, the salesperson follows them and keeps the commission.
Now, let me push back on this whole model.
Okay, go for it.
In an era where everyone is basically trained by Amazon to buy things with one click on their phone, is this intense, human-driven floor coaching fighting a losing battle? It sounds like an incredible amount of manual effort.
You would think so, but the playbook proves exactly why that human element is still vital. Direct sales models assume a perfect match between a buyer and a car. You log on, you know you want a sedan, you click buy.
Right.
But this playbook reveals that 75% of customers actually switch vehicles from their initial target.
Wait, 75%?
Yes. They walk in looking for a compact SUV, realize it doesn't fit their family, and they leave with a truck or a minivan. Guiding a customer through that realization and keeping the sale requires intense, empathetic human coaching. An algorithm struggles to read the disappointment on a customer's face when they sit in a car for the first time.
Okay, 75% switching is a massive metric. But surely there is a limit to this. Scaling this highly manual, intense floor coaching model across a massive corporate auto group, I mean, it seems like a recipe for completely burning out your staff. You can't have a star MLB catcher behind the plate for 1,000 games a year.
No, you can't. And that is exactly where the industry is pivoting. Dealerships are desperate to bridge that gap. They want to give consumers the seamless digital experience they expect while still actively selling to them and without burning out their human staff.
So how do they do that?
To do that, they are turning to advanced technology to automate the hustle. An industry report covering digital retailing argues that AI sales agents are stepping in to solve this exact bottleneck.
Look, when I hear AI sales agent, my mind immediately goes to those awful automated customer service phone menus.
Oh, the worst.
You get trapped in a loop of press 1 for sales, and you just end up screaming representative into the phone. Can an AI really negotiate something as emotionally fraught as a trade-in without hallucinating numbers and infuriating the buyer?
It's a completely valid fear, but the technology highlighted in this report has moved light years beyond those frustrating scripted chatbots. Those old bots relied on strict decision trees and specific keywords.
Right, if you didn't say the exact right phrase, they broke.
Exactly. But these new AI agents maintain context using natural language understanding. They can run end-to-end, multi-turn sales conversations without any human intervention.
Give me a practical example. Like, if I'm sitting on my couch at midnight looking at a car, what is this AI actually doing that a basic website calculator can't do?
It is actively performing complex on-site actions in real time. Let's say you want to trade in your current car, but you owe more on the loan than the car is actually worth.
Ugh, negative equity.
Right, negative equity. That usually requires a finance manager to untangle. This AI can calculate the real-time math, compare financing scenarios, roll that negative equity into a new lease or loan structure, and explain it to you clearly.
Wow.
Furthermore, it can seamlessly switch languages mid-conversation. If you start typing in English and switch to Spanish, it follows you instantly without bouncing you to a human or some generic FAQ page.
So it's essentially doing all the heavy lifting, all the friction-heavy math, before the customer ever steps onto the lot to meet the so-called catcher. How is it actually performing?
The performance jump they're reporting is staggering. Traditional dealer bots see about a 5 to 8% engagement rate, but these advanced AI agents are showing engagement above 25%.
That's a huge jump.
And a conversion rate of 10 to 13% among those engaged visitors.
That is a massive leap in efficiency. But let's be real for a second. We are talking about the auto industry, which loves a good sales pitch.
Very true.
Who is actually providing these numbers? Are we just taking the AI vendors at their word?
That is the crucial blind spot you have to watch out for. The data in this report relies entirely on vendor-sourced claims. There is absolutely no third-party validation or transparent methodology provided to back up these conversion leaps.
Right. It's like, our product is amazing, just look at this spreadsheet we made.
Exactly. Dealerships are essentially being asked to trust the software company's marketing materials.
You definitely have to take it with a grain of salt. But even if the numbers are slightly inflated, it shows a clear trajectory. The industry is obsessed with using software to cut friction.
Totally obsessed.
And that tech obsession isn't just transforming how the car is sold on the website. It is fundamentally rewiring the architecture of the car itself. Reporting cited by Car and Driver points to a massive shift happening right inside your dashboard.
We are moving from the showroom to the actual bones of the vehicle. Google is releasing an open-source Android automotive OS specifically designed for software-defined vehicles, or SDVs.
Okay, SDVs.
Yeah, and their goal is to become the standardized digital brain for the entire auto industry.
Let's clarify what this means, because when people hear Android in a car, they think of plugging in their phone so Spotify and Google Maps pop up on the screen. But this is much deeper than that, isn't it?
Oh, much deeper. Car and Driver likened this initiative to an Apple CarPlay Ultra, but even that doesn't quite capture the scale. Modern cars are basically mechanical islands.
What do you mean?
Well, the seat actuators, the climate control, the brakes, the interior lighting, the cameras, they all run on separate, isolated computers from different suppliers. It is an absolute nightmare of software fragmentation.
Oh, wow.
Google's OS is a lightweight operating system meant to unify all of those multiple hardware domains under one software layer.
So this is why sometimes my car's Bluetooth glitches out, and instead of a quick fix, the dealer has to keep my car for 3 days just to flash an update to a specific module.
Yeah.
The systems don't talk to each other.
Precisely. If Google succeeds, it shifts the paradigm from cars as mechanical machines with a few screens attached to standardized tech nodes. It could finally allow automakers to fix buggy car software through unified over-the-air updates, exactly like how your smartphone updates overnight.
Which brings up the smartphone wars analogy. Are automakers really prepared to just hand the keys to their kingdom over to big tech? I have to imagine that if I am the CEO of a legacy auto brand, the idea of giving Google the core operating system of my vehicle is terrifying.
It is terrifying, and it introduces a massive open question regarding adoption and identity. Which automakers will actually swallow their pride and use it?
Right.
Because if everyone uses Google's base operating system, how does a luxury brand differentiate its feel from a budget economy car? If the climate control, the seat adjustments, and the telemetry all run on the exact same underlying logic, do you lose the soul of the brand?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question. If the user interface feels exactly the same in a $30,000 car as it does in a $100,000 car, you destroy the premium illusion.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have talked about perfectly orchestrated software, highly optimized AI sales agents, and expensive, heavily regulated dealerships. But let's take a dramatic turn.
Let's do it.
What happens when a consumer decides to bypass all of this sophisticated, expensive infrastructure and just looks for a cheap repair in the aftermarket?
This is where the drive for efficiency crashes into the reality of consumer safety. An initial decision from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, reveals a terrifying breakdown in the repair ecosystem.
It's like buying a cheap counterfeit phone charger off the internet because you didn't want to pay $30 at the Apple store. Except if a phone charger shorts out, your battery dies. In this case, the stakes are literal life and death. Walk me through exactly what is happening here.
NHTSA is proposing a permanent ban on illegally imported DTN replacement airbags. These are frontal inflators specifically noted in 2017 to 2022 vehicles, like Chevy Malibus and Hyundai Sonatas.
Okay, so relatively recent cars.
Yeah. And here's the critical mechanism. These were installed as replacement parts by independent shops after prior crashes. Because they are aftermarket parts, they completely bypass the original automaker's supply chains and quality control. They are highly unregulated.
And how does a safety device become a deadly projectile, like we talked about at the start?
An airbag is essentially a controlled explosive. It is supposed to ignite a propellant that instantly fills a fabric cushion with gas to catch your head during an impact.
Right, it saves your life.
Normally, yes. But with these unregulated DTN inflators, the metal canister housing the propellant actually ruptures. Instead of filling a cushion, it acts like a pipe bomb, propelling metal shrapnel directly into the passenger cabin.
Oh my God, the human cost attached to this is horrifying. NHTSA linked these specific inflators to 10 fatalities and 2 serious injuries across just 12 crashes. 10 people lost their lives because an independent shop sourced a counterfeit replacement part. But here's the question that I think every used car buyer is screaming right now.
What's that?
If I buy a used Chevy Malibu, I go online and I check the vehicle identification number, the VIN for recalls. If my VIN check comes up clean, am I safe?
No, you are not. And that is why this matters so much. It exposes a massive, gaping loophole in consumer safety. Standard VIN-based recall tools are run by the automakers.
Okay.
They only track the components the manufacturer originally put into the car or repairs done at official franchise dealerships. They cannot track third-party components installed by an independent body shop after a collision. The manufacturer has absolutely no record that a counterfeit part is sitting in your steering wheel.
So the official system is completely blind. You could have a live grenade in the dashboard, run a clean VIN check, and drive away thinking your family is perfectly safe.
Exactly. And to make matters worse, NHTSA cautions that there is no assurance the issue is limited only to those specific vehicle models.
You're kidding.
Nope. The problem could be much wider, hiding in millions of vehicles that have had aftermarket front-end collision repairs.
That is genuinely chilling. Okay, we have covered an immense amount of ground, from the boardroom to the body shop. Let's take a breath and pull all of this together.
If we synthesize all of these disparate threads, we can see 3 dominant themes emerging across the modern automotive landscape.
Listen.
First, there is a relentless drive to cut friction. We see this clearly in Google's unified operating system trying to smooth out the nightmare of software development, and in the AI sales agents attempting to remove the friction from the digital buying process.
Makes sense.
Second, we see extreme cost pressure weighing down the entire system. The state franchise laws report exposes a $5,000 middleman tax, and the Dorset baseball catcher's playbook proves just how intensely local dealers have to fight inventory carrying costs just to stay afloat.
And the third theme.
The hidden complexities of ownership. The deadly DTN aftermarket airbags perfectly illustrate how bypassing the official system for a cheaper repair can introduce invisible fatal risks into a vehicle.
It feels like these forces are constantly crashing into each other, creating massive friction points for a consumer.
They are. There are two major tensions here. The first is efficiency versus protection. The franchise tax report argues forcefully for stripping away middlemen to achieve pure economic efficiency and lower sticker prices.
Right.
Yet the dealer playbook proves how vital that human middleman is when 75% of buyers change their minds and need empathetic guidance. You cannot easily automate human indecision.
That's very true.
The broken tension is vendor promises versus reality. The AI sales agents boast massive conversion leaps, but as we noted, they completely lack the independent validation we demand in almost every other area of the industry.
So if I am listening to this on my commute or if I'm gearing up to buy a car soon, what is the practical takeaway here? What do I do with all this information?
The single most important takeaway is that you have to become the ultimate auditor of your own automotive life. The days of blindly trusting the system are over.
You really have to do the work.
You do. You need to question the structural markups on a new car invoice. You need to understand the technology taking over your dashboard. And crucially, you must manually ask for physical repair invoices when buying a used car, because we now know a clean VIN check will not save you from a counterfeit, unregulated airbag.
You cannot rely on the databases to protect you. You have to ask the hard questions yourself.
Precisely. I will leave you with this final thought to mull over. The car is no longer just a physical machine you drive off a lot. It is a highly complex software node, a sophisticated financial instrument, and a vessel of hidden global supply chains.
It's crazy to think about it that way.
Yeah. Every single time you turn the key, you are interacting with all of those invisible forces simultaneously.
It really changes how you look at the vehicle sitting in your driveway. Keep a close eye on the direct-to-consumer legal battles in your specific state. How those play out could fundamentally change how you buy your next vehicle and whether you keep paying that invisible tax. Thank you for joining us on Auto News Talk. Stay curious, keep auditing the details, and we will catch you next time.